It's a me, a Mario, and a gaming history. Keep rebuying my games.
Skip it up and that up.
So when it comes to preserving gaming history, Nintendo sucks. And they flat out don't care that they suck. We don't have an obligation to preserve these old games. We don't care. If you can't buy them anywhere else, sucks for you. You should have bought them when the storefronts were open. You're a failure of a person, is what Nintendo would say to you. At least that's what I think in my head because I have issues. As a matter of fact, when they announced that they would be shutting down the 3DS and Wii U eShops in 2023, this is what they had to say. This comes from Kotaku, and part of this gem, Nintendo actually took off their Q&A because it made them look terrible. Luckily, Kotaku kept it. Here's what it said. Enjoy. As of August 29th, 2022, it will no longer be possible to use a Nintendo eShop card to add funds to an account in Nintendo eShop on Wii U or the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. However, it will still be possible to redeem download codes until late March 2023. Now, they also say here, which is interesting because it ties into what else we're going to be talking about later in this video, for the foreseeable future, you're going to be able to download the games you already bought. They're not shutting that down anytime soon. Asterisk to that. But then a question was asked that I'll read to you here. This part of the Q&A is gone. Kotaku kept it, where it's like, what happens to the games that weren't released on other platforms and the only way you could get them is through the eShop? What the hell happens then? I'll read the question. I'll read Nintendo's reply before they deleted it, and then we'll discuss and continue. Once it is no longer possible to purchase software in Nintendo eShop on Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS family of systems, many classic games for past platforms will cease to be available for purchase anywhere. Will you make classic games available to own some other way? If not, then why? Doesn't Nintendo have an obligation to preserve its classic games by continually making them available for purchase? This was Nintendo's reply. Across our Nintendo Switch Online membership plans, over 130 classic games are currently available in growing libraries for various legacy systems. The games are often enhanced with new features such as online play. Well, gee, Nintendo, that would be great if you only made 130 games, but there is a lot more games from you and third-party developers that were developed for your systems that you made throughout the years. 130 games is absolutely nothing. But they continue on. We think this is an effective way to make classic content easily available to a broad range of players. Within these libraries, new and longtime players can not only find games they remember or have heard about, but other fun games they might not have thought to seek out otherwise. We currently have no plans to offer classic content in other ways. Basically, what they're saying is we don't give a crap about preserving gaming history. We just care if whatever current platform we have is marketable. If you invested time and money into these games or you want to find these older games later down the line, sucks for you. We don't care. Well, if you remember back in late March, I talked about how the Nintendo Wii and DSi shops were down. Now, you may think, oh, it's not a big deal, Rich, they're old platforms. Well, it kind of is, because it ties into what else I just talked about. If the games aren't available in other ways, it kind of sucks you can't purchase them anymore. But what makes this worse is it wasn't about the games not being purchasable. It's about people not having access to the games they purchased on the DSi and Wii because Nintendo, they're down and you couldn't download them. Even if you purchased these games, you had no access to them. That's a real goddamn problem. Think about it. Purchases you made digital, that the only way you have access to them is by downloading them from Nintendo's servers. Yeah, well, we're working on it. We're not giving you access to it. That's major. That's major. That means that they will take your money for a product, and you have no control over what happens to it. You think you purchased it. You think, okay, let's say, you think you have the license to it for as long as you want, so long as you have a Nintendo platform to play it on, a Nintendo piece of hardware. No. You couldn't download the games that you rightfully purchased and owned. Or, had a license to. Well, Nintendo a couple days later in March replied with an update. Okay, good. You're thinking maybe a week, maybe a couple weeks, they'll have a fix, but this is what they originally said. The Wii Shop channel and Nintendo DSi Shop are currently undergoing maintenance. We will provide an update at a later date. Okay, cool. You're thinking they'll get this fixed, right? Well, they did just put out an update a couple days ago. Good news, right? Well, this comes from NintendoLife.com, and this is what Nintendo had to say. 2 months after the Wii and DSi Shop channel outages, YouTube channel GameXplain has now reached out to Nintendo to see if it could provide any more clarification about what's going on. Unfortunately, the news statement is that it's still got nothing to announce about the current status of these outages. Let it sink in that these are games that you purchased that Nintendo doesn't give a crap if you have access to or not. It's not that you can't shop on the Wii. It's not that you can't shop on the DSi. I get it. They're old platforms. These are games you own that you can't get access to. What happens if there's a game you really like to play on there? Even if it isn't a game that you really wanted to play. Like, it's a game you bought. You may think the game sucks, but you bought it. You should have the right to download that crappy game that you think is very mediocre anytime you want to. What bothers me too is that I know what Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo are doing as well. They're like, yeah, we don't really want to pay for the server maintenance. Let's just cut off access to something, or let's make an announcement that a storefront's shutting down. And let's see how people react. And if they get pissed off enough, then, we'll turn around and change our views on it and apologize. They did that. Sony just did that. Remember, they made the announcement that they were shutting down the PS3, Vita, and PSP stores. Now, the PSP storefront got shut down, but the PS3 and Vita, after there was a backlash, Sony was like, yeah, all right, we'll keep them up for the foreseeable future, but you'll be able to buy games on there. That's exactly what happened. And then look what just happened with Microsoft. It happened to me. I was playing Elden Ring at the time. This is before I finished the game. And I was done live streaming and I wanted to go play it, and I couldn't play the game. A single player game that I purchased through Microsoft that was downloaded on my console couldn't play. And there were other people who had the console set as the primary Xbox console who still couldn't play their games. There were people like putting a post that Dead Space, an Xbox 360 game that is as single player as it comes, they couldn't play because they downloaded it through Microsoft, and there's DRM in every single game that you download from Microsoft. And games you own, games that are single player, you could not play because it couldn't check in with Microsoft servers. Even if, for some people anyway, if it was your primary console. Let that all sink in. Look, all of these companies decry, especially Nintendo, decry piracy, and you'll see them go after all of these websites that share ROMs, which, look, I get it. I'm on Nintendo's side. If a company's selling hacking kits for current gen consoles, yeah, Nintendo has every right to go after them. But Nintendo, why do you think, minus that people just want to pirate the games to begin with, but beyond that, why do you think that these places exist? Because they don't trust you, Nintendo. They don't trust you, Sony. They don't trust you, Microsoft. The people feel that what's going to happen in the future if their servers shut down, or if they have an issue with the DSi and Wii shops, where even games that you purchase, people don't have access to the games that they own on those. Now, the argument's going to be made, Rich, who plays on their DSi anymore? It doesn't matter if it's one person that plays on their DSi. They should have a right to access the games that they purchased. It doesn't matter that it's an outdated platform. It's their games that they rightfully purchase with their hard-earned money, license or not. They should have access to so they could play them whenever they want to. Someone or some organization needs to step in, and the corporations themselves need to step up to do something to preserve games. Because if this is how they're going to handle it, it's a joke, and everybody has the right to be pissed off at this. This is Rich of Review Tech USA signing out. Have a good one. Gee, I wonder why I have no problem buying these pirate carts of old games. See this? I'll have this forever. I don't have to worry about a server being up to play it. Just saying. Have a good one.